Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining this session. As you are aware, today we're going to be talking in this particular session about community as a service. It's pretty much quite a new concept. We all know all the other software as a service, etc. But community as a service is something I am extremely passionate about. A, because I'm super passionate about community, but B, because of the second half of the title, which is community as a service to say sustainability, right? Because once we have a strong community and we're able to develop a loyal following, a good customer base, and we can monetize that consistency of that loyalty, we're then able to really do a lot in terms of how we grow our business, whether it's financially, in terms of using that for the business model and the revenue stream, or from research, data collection, the way it allows us to inform our growth, moving into new markets. So there's so much opportunity that comes really from being able to be closely linked to and having a good understanding of the community around us and the communities that we serve. So I'm really, really excited to talk about this particular panel with the ladies that we have, because if I'm honest, I'm a fan. So Kalia, for example, I actually came across a few years ago when I noticed we shared a birthday. And I said, happy birthday. I didn't know what she did at the time. I was just glad she was born to me. I was like, those people are good people. And then I actually became a member of her community without her need to request it. And that's one of the things that we're really going to talk about today, is actually about how we build those communities, and the fact that a lot of the members of our communities choose to be members of our communities and choose to support us and choose to be there for us. So Kalia is going to talk to us about UK Jammy and how she set that up in a moment, and we're going to enter a panel talk. And then we have Sheila, another person I fangirl over, which is really very interesting, because I think Sheila fangirls over me equally. So it's like a fangirl competition. But Sheila runs Cocoa Bean Gifts, which used to focus on B2C one-to-one sales, but I know she's moving into and has moved into a subscription model, which I found to be extremely exciting and innovative. And the way that pivot was made, I think, is really important for other new entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs who've had their business for a while and actually want to pivot away from what they do. It's more of a community as a service model. I think Sheila has a lot to offer there. And then we have Choma. So Choma is the coach of coaches. She's the coach that coaches go to. And of course, ultimately, her customer target group is one community for her, but they also serve other communities. And I really feel like the insight that she has there in terms of how we can build community builders is also equally as important as how we can build our own communities. So I'd really like to kickstart with Kalia. Kalia, if you could give us an introduction to yourself, your business, and how you support your community, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Kalia, and I'm the founder of Jammy, which is a marketplace and discovery platform for Black makers in the UK. So we got started back in August 2016, very much inspired by the first wave of the Black Lives Matter movement, where we were just thinking, like, how can we make it really easy for people to be buying from Black-owned businesses on a regular basis? So it's not just inspired by social media trends, it's not just surge spending, it's repeated spending, because ultimately that's what's going to drive like real economic growth. So we started off as a discount card because we were like, everyone loves a discount, and you know, it was about creating habits. It was about getting people thinking, every time we've got something to spend, oh, can I get this from a Black maker? We kind of just grew from there. And I think a lot of people kind of latched onto, oh, I like this concept, like I get it, it's quite easy to understand. And we kind of grew. We started off really small with like 25 makers, but over years more and more people started to work with us, and we realized that actually, like, we were kind of looking at the really one small part of the problem, and we kind of started to evolve the things that we were doing. So we moved into being an online marketplace, so for customers, like, they can make all their purchases in one place, so it was really easy for them, so that we can start taking over some of the customer service with partners, so they don't have to think about those types of things. But then also thinking about how can we create really interesting experiences to bring people together. So we do pop-up shops, we do real life marketplaces as well, and then also, like, when it comes to makers, like, sales is obviously like one thing, but it's also like access to experts and workshops and resources and things like that. So we do a lot of stuff behind the scenes with the people that we work with. So I hope that's a good enough introduction. I don't know if I missed anything out about community.
No, that was a great introduction to what you do. So the community, so how did that, I mean, I guess because of the discount card model, you already knew that you were going to build a community. But what has been the transition from initially starting and to now? Because now you actively, like I see quite a lot on your content that you actively engage the community, you share, your days at the box parks and things like that. When you have the pop-up shops, you're actively showing members as they come through. So you're creating that, you've got that community vibe really pinned down now. So how was that from the beginning to now? Was that something you always really wanted to have, or was your focus more on the makers and sales? And how have you transitioned more now?
You know what, I always forget this part of the story. So Jammy actually is Swahili for community. So like I always forget that part. So literally from day dot, like for us, it was something that this is a collegiate effort. Like we are not there's no way we could do all of this on our own. So even when we first approached the people that we work with, like our makers, it was always very much like on a let's work together, let's partner. Like we were never trying to sell them something. It was always like we want to grow by helping you grow, which I think has meant that we had great foundations and great relationships. And so we do, like you touched on, we do have two communities. We've got a community of like 250 makers who we engage a lot, like in person and online and kind of behind the scenes and stuff, to kind of make sure we're creating as much value for them as possible. Then also, obviously, we have a huge community of customers as well, who for us, they see, well, as far as I'm concerned, they see it in the same way. Like we are a resource for them, we are a platform for them, but we are working together. We are not just selling them products. It's not a one-way relationship, it's very two-way. They engage with us. Like we always have like loads of DMs, loads of emails coming through from customers asking us questions, giving us comments, giving us feedback, giving us, oh, could you do this, or can you help us with that, and things like that, which is like obviously a very community based approach that people feel like they can chat to us. And I think that's really, really important. But it's something that from the get-go we were like, if we don't have people working with us behind us wanting to root for us, then there's no way that it's going to work.
Exactly. And I think that's such a good point that you make. And a really cool name though, Coincidence.
I know.
I love it. It's a happy coincidence. But it's such a good point you make. I mean, we're going to pull back on that. But I mean, throughout the pandemic, just out of curiosity, how much do you think that the community helped in your growth?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. Like we've had so many opportunities come through for us from our community. So our pop-up shops that we've been able to do have been from our community. The fact that we were able to release a film with Pinterest came about because of who our community was. There's so many things, almost like everything that we've been able to achieve has come from one of our community members being like, I believe in what you do, so I'm gonna give you a contact, or I'm gonna say your name in the right room, or I'm gonna, shout you out on social media, I'm gonna leave a review for you on Trustpilot. Like all of that stuff matters, and I think it comes from people caring. They care about what we do, they care about why we're doing it, and obviously importantly, they do feel like we're providing them with value, and so they're happy to put their name next to ours.
Exactly. I mean, now I feel really good actually, because I'm a member of the community. I think I just did something. Hey.
Yeah, you definitely did, 100%.
No, it's really good, really good. Thank you so much for sharing that portion. We're gonna come back. I'll come back to you when we do the panel, but if we can move into speaking to Chioma next. So Chioma, if you give us an introduction and background to yourself, what you do, and the role of communities in that.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, a little bit
perfect.
faint. Oh, perfect.
Oh, no.
Yes. Yeah. No,
Okay,
I can hear you.
All right. Well, thank you for having me as part of this panel. And as Kalia was talking, I was like, I resonate with that so much, because that's actually how I started my entrepreneurship journey as well. So I'm usually based in Canada. Right now I'm in Ghana, but I started a company called My African Corner about, I'm gonna say 4 or 5 years ago. And at the time, what the goal was to create a hub to find all things African in Canada, right? With a focus on Black entrepreneurs. And I think there's an important thing to note about, community and, understanding the beauty of a pivot as well, in the sense that when you listen to your community, which Kalia shared so brilliantly as well, when you listen to your community, you hear what they're really asking you for versus what you started off doing, right? So many times as entrepreneurs, we start off doing one thing, but as we learn more from our clients, our customers, we realize, okay, maybe I'm I'm actually better off doing this other thing. But also listening to our intuition as well, right? Really being clear on what sparks joy for me. So back to my story. So I started my African Corner, and at the time was a hub to find all things African, really because I couldn't find a hair braider in Canada when I first moved there. It was a struggle. And yeah, so I was like, I need to solve this for somebody else. And then as we started creating the platform, one of the things that we started doing was workshops, conferences, all that stuff, and really found that our community was asking for more of that versus the platform itself. And I also realized that my passion really is on education, right? And so we moved more to focus on the conferences and started working with different brands like Facebook, like banks in Canada, to help us to plan some of those workshops and conferences, and that really served our community. Then around the time COVID happened, well, actually during this whole time, I was also like consulting and coaching for free, right? And so around the same time, last year when COVID happened, one of the things that became very clear to me is because our events were usually in person and all that, and we could have done it online, but I realized what would be required to do it online. And I've also realized I was probably better off actually going more so the coaching route, because that was more aligned with where I wanted to go with what I was doing. And so I started coaching. And it's so funny because initially I started coaching all kinds of businesses. But then I realized my expertise really falls in experts who want to create their own online course or their own online coaching business. And I think many times, like I said before, when we start off doing one thing, we realize one, what we actually love doing. And the second part of that is also what our clients are asking us for, what our communities are asking us for. And so that's how I started my coaching business, with a focus on experts creating online courses and also creating their online coaching business. And yeah, that's my journey in a nutshell.
Perfect. And now I know I remember you were telling me you had a little bit of geographical shifts during the pandemic. And so Curiosity is asking me as well, the same question for you. How do you feel like the community aspect of what you do helped you in that? Because of course you found yourself in Ghana, right? And then you ended up and that's how you ended up falling in love with Ghana, but you found yourself in Ghana during the pandemic. So how did having a community allow you to remain sustainable?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things I was very intentional about, even before I had a business or anything of the sort, was building networks, right? Like building intentional networks where I'm not looking for someone to do something for me, but I'm actually looking to show up as a value provider, right? So really looking to pour into people. And so for me, even when I started my business, people are like, oh my gosh, your business, how are you able to do all these different things in this short amount of time? And the reason for that is because I had already established my credibility with key relationships, right? Not expecting to get anything out of them, but just being intentional about building genuine connections, right? So that really served me even when so my African Corner, we've been on pause now for about a year or so. But when we're still running, that really served me in the terms of the rooms I was able to be in, the kind of people I was able to meet as a result of those networks. Now coming to Ghana, so my coaching business actually really played a key part in that, because what it is right now my clients are all over the world. So I have clients in the UK, clients in Germany, clients in Canada, in the US. So it doesn't really matter what country or what city I'm in, as long as I'm able to have access to the internet, right? And so I think for me, one of the things is, this has been my dream for a very long time, being able to come to Ghana and explore, I say, the tech and the creative industries, like see what people are working on in the tech space, but also see what people are working on in the creative space, which is really something I'm planning on in terms of getting more involved on the continent in a longer term. But having that community and building that loyalty and building those connections and showing up as a value provider have really served in providing me the platform to be able to do that.
Lovely. Just a second, my apologies. Right, so thank you so much for that, Sharon. It was so insightful. So Sheila.
Hello.
Hi, Sheila. So Sheila, if you could please introduce yourself as well for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, amazing. I just feel really inspired. And I think with the panel, I can literally find myself in a lot of what Kalia was saying and Choma was saying. So that's been brilliant. Thank you for inviting me on. My name is Sheila. I'm the founder of Cocoa Bean Gift Box. And Cocoa Bean Gift Box is basically aimed at diverse, multifaceted and consumer conscious women. It's a gift box platform where we really aim to collaborate with lots of different different brands, but specifically Black-owned businesses, as well as established brands. And we basically bring their products together into a box and introduce them to our subscribers and followers. It's been an amazing journey, and a little bit about the history of Cocoa Bean. I think pre-pandemic, the good old days, I think I was just always really passionate about women businesses. So I was going to events, and I kept on coming across amazing products that were coming out of the Black community specifically. And I was always thinking, oh my goodness, how do these, entrepreneurs or new businesses, how do they not have a platform in which to really showcase their products? And I thought, and I think at the time I was subscribed to a box, one of the beauty boxes that was coming, and you'd have beauty products. And even though that was amazing, I thought, how amazing would it be to actually receive products from all of these businesses, all of these women-powered businesses, and businesses that were doing incredible things in their community in their own right, and be able to kind of introduce them to different consumers. And that's kind of how, Cocoa Bean started. So January, we kind of put together our first gift box at first. So it was just a gift box with lots of bits from the community, lots of amazing products, anything from hair care to skincare to snacks, which is obviously my favorite. And we just put them together and obviously send them over to our subscribers. And we had some really, really, really good responses. With the passing of George Floyd and everything that happened within the Black Lives Matter, that just obviously, a lot of people were emotionally charged and wanted to really support what we were doing. So a lot of my community kind of found me, I guess, at that time. And since then, it's just been such an amazing journey. And with a lot of what the previous panelists have said, just in terms of, I really do feel like I'm women powered. All of the women that are subscribed or that do support us, I've found so many opportunities through them. And it's just been an incredible journey so far.
Right, start speaking up, I'm muting. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much for that, Sheila. And I guess in the like you said, I remember that because, I recall prior Cocoa Bean, and then like pandemic Cocoa Bean was like Cocoa Bean blasted out to the world. Everyone was talking about it. But how do you feel? I mean, I know you kind of touched on it already, but how do you feel the community supported you, was able to help you in terms of sustainability, right? Because when the pandemic hit, everybody, rightfully so, was anxious about how their business is going to grow, how they're going to do what they do. Postal services were messed up. There were so many issues across, and Europe, you post things out. So how did your community help you in terms of kind of those risks that you thought you were facing, and how did they turn that around for you?
I don't come from a business background, so I knew that the first thing I needed was people to be around me that were kind of business savvy, or people that were going through the same journey as me, because if one person finds an answer, then they can share it with everybody. So I think one of the first things I actually did was kind of create, it was really silly, super simple, a WhatsApp group. And I remember, because I was trying to find other businesses, other small businesses, I would just reach out to them and I was like, I've got a WhatsApp group with a few women who are just starting their journey. Why would you like to join? And then just kind of be part of that journey with us. And that's kind of now turned into a 20 women strong group full of business women who are, it's just been amazing to see their growth. But also within that WhatsApp group, we just kind of share solutions. I think as a small business, that's all you need. You need solution networks and people to help you. And if Royal Mail, which was, a blessing during COVID, was messing up, someone else would suggest maybe someone, another provider or another courier that they were using, or a lot of people are still kind of working full-time whilst doing their business, so they would be using like a courier within their workplace that they could recommend. So these really practical ways of just helping each other out was super, super helpful. And even just the power of social media, just, sometimes you go onto your story and ask a question just on your stories with the little answer box, and people are genuinely, open to help. And that was really good as well. So just finding answers from your community directly from using tools such as social media, but also building your own community whilst you are a new business. I think that was really helpful for me.
So I keep unmuting myself. I thought I left that in 2020. Like I'm out here still, I'm not muted or unmuted or whatever this is. So Thank you, Sheila. I was just going to say, so that brings us into like the first question I wanted to ask us in terms of the panel talk. FYI, the birds have decided this is time to have a party, so they're making a lot of noise. But I wanted to talk exactly about that, like how your communities and how communities help us to generate value. So, I mean, for me, I run the Ladies Entrepreneurship Club, which I also started this year, right? Which I only started again because in the pandemic, it was so much more difficult to see people one-to-one and run our live events. I was thinking, I need the group dynamic. I need the positive energy from like multiple people at once. So setting up the Ladies Entrepreneurship Club was perfect for me because I was able to have all these women from around the world. We have about 18 countries in the club at the moment. And for me, it was really good in terms of generating value because, of course, we teach entrepreneurship and we teach about business development. And so to really learn about the different environments and different contexts that these women were in and how easily applicable certain things were and how some things just were not applicable in that part of the world. And for us, that really helped us to be able to generate real value for future members of future cohorts. So we're in cohort 2, about to start cohort 3 now. So that's how our community really helped us to generate value. Yeah, Gemma. So now I'm thinking, well, you know, with you guys, how have your communities helped you to generate value? So let's go with Kalia again, because we haven't heard your voice in a minute, and tell us how, I mean, you mentioned the value that they brought to you, but how have they been able to help you generate value? I think your website was one. I really remember that when you went through the overhaul of your website, you know, you think I was right there with you, but I remember when you went through the overhaul of your website, you were pointing out the fact that you really wanted everything in one place because people wanted that, they wanted that. So yeah, what kind of examples have your community helped you to generate value?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting, because I think also the first thing I'll say is that I think a lot of people get confused between like communities and then just like active customers.
Yes.
And like there's a difference. Like active customers are just people who just like buying from you, which is like great. But like community members, and when you have like an engaged community, like it's very two-way, and you have to be providing value to them that is separate from whatever products or services that you sell. Like you have to be providing them because you're basically, especially if you're a digital community, like an online hub, like they've got to come to you for something usually of emotional value. And for us, like the way that our community has been able to generate value for us, I suppose, I mean, obviously an easy one would be like there's a lot of them. So like when if we say oh, let's try and pitch a collaboration with a bigger brand, or let's see if we can do something with press or something like that, when we kind of turn up and we say, oh yeah, we've got like 38,000 people that we speak to on a regular basis, blah blah blah, like people prick up and pay much more attention than like before, when we were like, we've got a few hundred people that we know, and you know, that kind of thing. So I think that's obviously definitely a help, because it's also like that in itself is like validation of who you are and what you do, because you've got a huge amount of people who are interested. So therefore it's like, okay, if we've got this many people, then you know there's going to be more people who are interested. But I think it's like what you were saying, like with for us, like it's really the intangibles, it's like the feedback that we get from them. So our community is very vocal, they're very chatty with us, they're very good at kind of being like, we like this and can you help us with this, and it would be great if we could do X, Y, Z on the site. So originally, like I was saying, we had a site which was very basic. It was very much like, it's a discount card, it's basically like a directory, the actual website, but we were just getting feedback from customers about like how we could make things easier for them, which obviously for us is really important, because it's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get them to do an action on a regular basis. So it's really important to us that they are telling us, we're not doing that action on a regular basis, and here's all the reasons why, here's what you need to fix. But fortunately, because they believe in what we're doing, they're very good at being like, okay, we need you to do this and we need to do that and we need to do the other. And like, because at the beginning we had like it was a much smaller community, yeah, but they were still really strong. So when they give us that feedback, we're then improving things. So when the next person comes along and it's like, oh, what's Jammy? Like, what's that about? We've already kind of like removed a lot of the friction from the process. So the website's easier to use. Like we already have got products on that people are looking for, and like all these things start to get refined because of like the value of that feedback. And I think I was also saying before as well about things like people being really willing to talk about us and to put their name next to ours, because like, doesn't matter like what size of Facebook ad budget you've got or whatever, like at the end of the day, like real people talking about you is invaluable. Real people leaving Trustpilot reviews and say, I've used the site, I think it's great, I trust it, someone else should buy from it too, or tweeting or putting on their Instagram story like, I've just made a purchase from this site and here's what I got and I loved it, and shouting about us is so important. And so many people, it's like they'll come to our events and be like, oh, how did you hear about it? Oh, my friend shared it with me, or you know, someone that I worked with kept talking about it, or sent it, or kind of put it in the WhatsApp group, or like all of those kinds of things like are so invaluable. And when people turn up for us, that's when we're able to do more stuff. Like when people turned up and showed up at our first pop-up, that's how we were able to do a second, and that's how we were able to do a third. It's the same thing with like all of our marketplaces or anything that we do, and especially because for us, obviously, we have a community of makers who we're trying to serve and support. So every time our community of customers turns up and turns out, we're able to support our community of members, makers even more.
That's so cool. I mean, and it's just that kind of dynamic relationship between yourself and them, and the feedback coming in, and then the changes being made, and then them being able to see it, and you being able to get that live validation process and that live feedback, like a constant focus group, right?
Yeah, honestly. And you have to have like, not like you have to have a thick skin, but when you have a community versus like active customers, you best be ready to receive feedback in all its forms. Sometimes it hurts.
I know, because I think even on one occasion, I think I've even sent you feedback that was like, even afterwards, I was like, I'm in her virtual community. She might not be ready for like a real life.
No, but you have to.
Members, sometimes you get so invested and you think, oh, I know this person. And really that's what we want, isn't it? We want people to be so emotionally connected to us that they forget that they don't know us. Yeah. Right. So that they feel comfortable with the brand, because really that's the personality of the brand. That's the culture of the brand, is what we give it first. So, you know, so it's lovely. It's lovely doing, and very, very good point about having a thick skin. Very, very good point. I've learned that from my ladies entrepreneurship club, like a room with 68 or 72 women from around the world who are all entrepreneurs. It can be quite demanding, but it's good. It's very refreshing. Thank you for that, Claire. Yeah. So Chioma, and yourself, how would you say that your community has helped you to bring value and increase the value?
Yeah, I think about this. Well, I have my community, as in the people who follow my work, and then I have my clients. I love that you made that distinction, Kelia. So for me, when I think about my clients, I'm going to talk about community in a second. When I think about my clients, and I think about why I keep showing up as a coach and doing the work that I do, and while money is great because we need to pay our bills, hello, right? Well, that part is great. I think for me, what it is the feel good value, right? Being able to see the ripple effect of the impact of your work, right? How it's going to affect their communities, their families. So like Tanisha mentioned, I coach coaches, right? So coaches who want to start a life coaching business, whatever kind of business, financial coaching, all that stuff. And so it's people who are coming to me with, maybe they have expertise from their 9-to-5 job, and maybe they're done with their 9-to-5. They've been working in corporate for 12 years, 10 years. They're ready to do something different and to have the freedom and flexibility to live wherever in the world that they want to be able to live. So like me right now, being in Ghana, this has been a dream, like I mentioned, for a very long time, right? And so for me, it's the being able to see like people be able to do that, actually create a structured plan that would help them to quit their job someday if that's one of their goals, or to have another source of income, right? And so that's one of the ways that my community adds value to me, in the sense that I'm able to see, like, help them to do that. But I think also is the intentionality behind building the community, right? So when I have my program is called Catapult, and the way it works is that we have different cohorts of people, and I actually have to intentionally curate the cohort. So it's like a mastermind, right? Because you have to learn from the next person. Like everybody has to be able to bring something to the table. You know, we're not just all there to learn from Chioma, because we all have so many lived experiences that we can share. And so when we come together as a group, so I teach them sales and marketing strategies, as well as how to create their online course and all that stuff. But when we come together as a group, we're all learning from each person. What is working in your industry? Can that be applied to my industry? What does that look like? So while they're learning from me, I'm also learning from them, which I value, right? And now in terms of community, so I love what you ladies shared about, you know, sometimes we receive some feedback and it's like, whoa, wasn't expecting that. When it's clients, I think it's different because they actually understand you, they know your process. But when it's complete strangers, and one of the things that I've been able to do with my Instagram and my social media platforms is turn some of those complete strangers into clients. And so when you meet somebody and the energy is a little bit off, you're like, oof. right? And sometimes it's easy to think that it's you, but sometimes it really is not you. It's just that it wasn't meant to be, right? So I'm learning more and more that sometimes just because, you know, somebody seems like they would be a perfect fit for your community doesn't necessarily mean that they're aligned in terms of the values and the different things that you want to show up as in your community as well.
Exactly, exactly. That is such a good point. It's such a good set of points. And then Sheila, now I'm not sure how much of a role did your community play in you going from B to C the way you were before in terms of individual boxes that people could order on a daily basis to the community model that you chose?
Yeah, I think what you both said, completely echo that. I think when your community is able to just give you value, and then you're able to then feed that back, and it's great. With something really special about gift boxes is that you bring them forward, don't you? You gift them to other people, someone receives them, and then they, you know, and what's been happening with Cocoa Bean that's super special is just like being able to see how that kind of bounces back. So someone will gift someone, and then they love it so much that they'll gift it forward, and they love it so much that they gift it forward, and they know somebody that will love it. And that's happened so many times, and it's so amazing. I think I got an email the other day with a client who does kind of events, who do order some of the boxes, and you know, something that is a bit more custom, and she said, I can't believe this has happened by my sister-in-law sending me my gift box, and during a really difficult time. And that at that point I realized, oh my goodness, this is so valuable to have just that word of mouth to, you know, to bring that forward. And you know, some of these sales really have then started what I'm trying to really curate now, which is just that corporate partnership understanding, and like receiving it, and actually, you know, sending a box to one of the CEOs of companies, and they loved it so much that they, you know, told their diversity team, and then they wanted to do something for the team. And it's just this kind of like just moving it forward, and that's been super valuable, not just for that shift within corporate, but also just that retailer, just to get, again, like Kalia said, just that feedback. And it's not only for myself as a business owner, understanding exactly, okay, how do I make this better? What do I need to do to make it a little bit more valuable to my customers, but also really valuable to the small businesses I'm supporting, and the small businesses I'm really trying to keep to provide that exposure to. So yeah, no, it's been really good. And I think also just being a point of contact to them for value. So now that I have created this little, you know, small community, and for them to kind of come to me to ask for things, and then for you to be able to now give that back is also super important, just as much as feedback and everything else.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, I mean, we're in our last few minutes now. So let's go around the room just to say, you know, what are your top 3 tips you would give to people about how to start the process of building an effective community? Kalia.
I'd say top 3 tips. I'd say first tip would be to really know what your community is supposed to be about, and be really specific as you can be. Especially if you're trying to build a community like around a product as well. Like I know a lot of people go product first, but it's not. It's emotion first. It's value first. So I was talking to someone the other day who was like, I want to create a community, like they sell hair care products and they want to create a community around that. And it's just like, if you want to create a community, you can't sell. You have to be providing value around. So think about like the kind of thing that your customers, or the people that you want to be your customers, are thinking about on a regular basis. Like it's not buying hair care, it's what problem are they trying to solve, and then what other content can you kind of spin off, like what funny content, what shareable content can you spin off that can, like what informational educational content can you create that's just going to be really interesting for them, and they're going to be like, oh my goodness, I need to keep interacting with this Instagram page, or I need to keep coming to these events because I'm getting a huge amount of value from it, and I'm able to connect to it. So I think that's the first thing I'd say, like focus on like the emotional value and be really specific and really niche down as much as you can. I think the second thing I'd say is that it is really hard and it takes a really long time, and that's because communities come from trust, and that is not something you can build overnight. that's what I was saying about Facebook ads. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how big your Facebook ad budget is or any of this stuff. Communities take a long time to build and grow because they're authentic and they're organic. And so you just have to kind of take time, make sure whatever community you're building is something that you're really passionate about. And then I think the third thing that I would say is just a rehash is just have thick skin, because community members are vocal. That is what you're bringing into your life, and so they will give you your feedback, and it's so useful, but sometimes it can cut, and so just be prepared for that. But it's amazing. Having a community, organized community is it's an amazing thing.
It is really an amazing thing, actually, in terms of like the loneliness that comes with entrepreneurship and business development and growth, and like demystifying the realities of what people will and won't buy. Having your own community is is the key. It's really the key, you know. So thank you for those points, Kalia. Really, really good. Sheila.
So I work with a lot of small businesses. So I think some of the tips that you maybe have as an established business are probably a bit different, but I would say just be patient. A lot of small businesses get discouraged really, really quickly. So I'll just say just be patient and really provide something that you would also like to receive. So when it comes to community like solutions, like I said before, I think that's one of the greatest ways, really. Whenever I find a page that kind of tells me how to do things really quickly and, you know, a really good format, I just enjoy it because I'm like, okay, I know that that's the place to go. So even just starting with those type of things and not just focusing too much on like Kalia said, really the product or the service, but just providing that solution-based platform. I think it's really, really helpful. And also just providing a really good product. Like if you're doing a product or a service, I think, you know, Instagram and Facebook, they're all very like, you know, quick, but just really hone in on what you're trying to provide, because as soon as that customer comes across to your product with your product, then you know that's the answer there. They don't have to then you know, criticize or anything like that. They will actually enjoy it, and that will make them come back, which is always very, very nice. And then finally, just enjoy being a part of your community as much as you're pouring into them, but also make sure that everyone is sharing that knowledge around. I think one of the best things that I think happen when you have a community is when someone else kind of stands up and says, oh, what about this? And they kind of take ownership, and they're now starting to even see themselves as leaders of that community. And I think that's also amazing, because then you start to see that, oh, wow, you're not only taking, but you're actually providing as well. And once someone is comfortable enough in that community to do that, you know that, you know, you're starting to build something really special.
Thank you so much. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sheila. And Chioma, your final piece of advice?
Oh, sorry. I love what both you ladies shared. Very powerful. It reminds me of Shopify, actually, because I remember, like, I am not an e-commerce person, but I remember for a very long time I was always going to the Shopify blog, and the reason for that was because they had tips for days to help you with your email marketing, all the different aspects of business. And I think that really speaks to the heart of community, is being able to serve, right, and the capacity that, you know, your community really needs. So I want to speak to this from the standpoint of a service-based business. So when you're a service-based business, the core has to start with your why, right?
Chioma,
why are you in? Sorry.
Can you just bring the mic closer? Yes.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
The core has to start with your why, really understanding why are you in this business and who are you here to serve, right? And one of the things I like to do with my clients is what I call a gap analysis, which is really thinking about where is your client today? What are their pain and frustrations? What are the things that keep them up at night? And then where do they want to be? What are their goals, right? And so your goal as a service-based business is to solve that problem for them, that gap, and to do it in such a way that they look forward to working with you over and over again, because you want repeat business in your service. Sheila was talking about, you know, being able to raise community members who like really speak about your brand, right? People are so invested in your story, in your brand, because they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel ready to execute. So those are my points.
Okay, well, you were expecting it to be Tanisha, but it's me, Rashid, the host. I was so enjoying listening to bits of the conversation. I thought, let me just step in now, but I'm sure she'll be back soon. It's been really amazing hearing all of your stories about community, and it's so empowering, isn't it? It seems so relevant, as a number of you were saying, actually during during the pandemic, and that sense for people to feeling the sense of the importance of communities become even more pronounced, right? I'm just wondering, in the remaining few minutes that we've got before we kind of wrap up, I just want to ask you, just in a sentence, what's your hope for your community moving forward? Just in a sentence, what's the hope? In fact, I think I can see, I think Tanisha's just coming right back at this moment. Tanisha, I've just stolen your... Tanisha, I was just...
Oh, I knew you would. I knew you were just excited to jump in and talk to my girls. You were already.
I'm so excited about it, and also because I'm just about to launch a network for coaches. So the opportunity to
Oh, lovely.
was so interesting.
Please, do you have a question for us? My apologies. My laptop literally just decided to kick me out of Zoom, so I just jumped in on my phone whilst it's logging back in.
No.
But do you have a question for them?
Well, I just want to say, actually, no, maybe all I want to say is actually, I want to change that question. I'll just say, again, I know there's that thing that you were just picking up on it, Tanisha, that thing about lots of people who are listening here are at that startup stage, and it can be really, really daunting. And I wonder if, Tanisha, you might want to give an answer to this as well. What would you just say, just a couple of things that you would say to anybody who's, thinking about it? Perhaps they've been on this today's session, perhaps they're overwhelmed, they don't know where to start. Just if everyone would just, in 30 seconds or so, just give your couple of tips. And Tanisha, I'm going to put you on the spot by asking you first. What would be your first couple of tips to anyone listening to this?
For starting a business that's focusing on community. Is that what you're asking about?
Or any type of business.
Okay.
Matter.
So the first thing I would say is Google Business Model Canvas and Value Proposition Canvas, and Google those tools and use those tools. Now, the reason I say that is in multiple parts. One, the Business Model Canvas has these 9 building blocks, which are super priceless, right? It gets you to think about who are the key partners that I need to have. Now, these don't have to be official public partnerships, but they're partnerships. For example, if you're going to be an online business, PayPal or Stripe, one of those would be a key partner, because you need them to receive revenue. And if they shut down, you wouldn't have an ability to receive revenue. Get you to think about your key activities. And a lot of businesses really fail because the entrepreneur doesn't know what they're going to do every day. And because you haven't planned out what you're going to do every day, you tell everyone that you're running your business, but really, what did you do today? You don't really know what to do. So key activities get you thinking, what are the key activities my business will need to do every day, every week, every month, seasonally, in order to stay afloat? You also need to think, it also encourages you to think about the customer target group. So who you're targeting, whichever demographics they are, the relationships that you're going to build with them, which connects with our topic for today, the channels you communicate through, which again is very important. Will it be a website? Will it be WhatsApp like Sheila did when she was kicking off? How will you do that? And then of course, your value propositions.
Wonderful.
And at the bottom,
yeah,
exactly. And then at the bottom, there are 2 boxes, and one is about revenue streams, and the other is about costs. And all of these things are very important. And then the value proposition canvas is like a sibling to that, and really just gets you thinking about the customer, because turns out over 70% of products in stores are never even touched, let alone bought, because they were created without thinking about the customer and the kind of value the customer needs.
Brilliant.
So that's my response.
No, really, really brilliant advice. Cully, let me turn to you, and you're going to have to squeeze that into 30 seconds just because of our timing. But any top tips to add to what Tanisha's shared?
My top tip will be to Google minimum viable proposition, which is basically you need to pull together the most basic version of whatever business, product or service you're trying to start, and just get it out into the world. So you don't invest lots of time or resources into it, but you do get to test really key assumptions about, are people going to want this? Are people going to buy this? And at what price point are they going to buy it? And then you just learn really quickly. So just get something out as quickly as you can, get the feedback, real world feedback, and then keep iterating it.
Brilliant advice. Chummy, my friend, how about for you? Any quick advice that you can squeeze into 30 seconds?
Yeah, I love what both the ladies have shared. I would just share something really quick. Would be, passion is great. We all have passion. We all love all the things that we love, but how is your business going to make money? Get very intentional about planning that out, because many times as business owners, we spend so much time in the operations and all these different places, but how are you actually going to get paid by your customer, right? And so that's something I would definitely recommend.
Fantastic. And Sheila, last but by no means least, your 30 seconds of final tips to add to all the things that have already been said before.
I'm just thinking about just something personal. I think something that maybe I wish I knew before starting is to make sure that you have kind of an answer for all of the issues that can pop up, so that you don't panic, but you can kind of go straight to that answer book, whether it's maybe a lot of people know it as standard operating procedure, something that we're really familiar with from a corporate sense. But if you do it for yourself and for your business, if a parcel goes missing, what happens then? And then you can then have that solution right there, and you don't have to panic. And I think that takes a lot of stress away, I guess.
Oh, that's really fantastic. Well, a huge thanks to all of you for today's panel. Sheila, Choma, and Kalia, and from Ghana, hosting and host and everything else. Tanisha, thank you so much. Just to say,
thank you.
Thanks everybody, and I'm so glad that you've had this conversation here about the power of community. Just to add, for anybody here accessing these sessions via the BIPC, check out also Precious Nights, which is a network for women of colour in business, which many people may have heard of, which is another network out there for women of colour in business. And good luck everybody with your community business. And I think you've probably inspired many, many more community businesses. So I'll let you all go now. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.